Göbeklitepe itself was the end of a process, not the beginning of a process. It was something that marked, it was a marker. It was something that brought together the best of everything that they'd accumulated and created it in one place.
Beneath Göbeklitepe, archaeologists have discovered a hidden underground complex that goes down 13 stories into solid bedrock. 13 stories, built 12,000 years ago, before the wheel, before writing, before we thought humans could do anything like this.
It's very difficult to know what the purpose of something like Göbeklitepe could be.
The chamber was sealed with a substance so advanced it shouldn't exist for another 4,000 years. And when researchers finally broke through that seal and reached the bottom level, what they found made 3 senior experts request removal from the project. They weren't looking at treasure, they weren't looking at tools, they were looking at skulls arranged in a circle. Skulls so heavily modified, they no longer looked human. This video is going to show you exactly what they found, why it was hidden, and why some researchers now believe Göbeklitepe wasn't a temple at all. It was a prison. The mountain that hid a secret. For decades, Göbeklitepe was sold to us as the birthplace of civilization. A beautiful story, early humans coming together to build something sacred. Located in southeastern Turkey, this site was constructed around 9600 BC. That makes it 12,000 years old. Older than Stonehenge by 6,000 years. Older than the Great Pyramids by 7,000 years. But here's the catch. A small group of senior researchers never believed the official story. For over a decade, they walked this plateau with a theory that their colleagues called obsessive. Dr. Mehmet Özdoğan, a veteran archaeologist from Istanbul University, was one of them. He kept saying the same thing in every meeting. A civilization that can carve 20-ton pillars and align them with the stars doesn't just stop at ground level. There's more. There has to be more. Everyone ignored him until they brought in ground-penetrating radar. The technology let them see through solid limestone without moving a single stone. After months of scanning, something appeared on the screen that made the entire team go silent. There was a shadow in the bedrock. It had straight walls. It had clear corners. Nature doesn't make squares underground. They had found a hidden structure, and it went down 13 stories into the earth, carved into solid bedrock, with hand tools. Before humanity supposedly knew how to farm, and what was waiting at the bottom would explain why someone sealed this place shut and never wanted it opened again. Breaking the ancient seal, getting permission to investigate took years. Göbeklitepe is one of the most protected archaeological sites on the planet. But when the radar showed what looked like a deliberate entrance buried under the eastern slope, Turkish authorities finally approved a limited excavation. The team removed surface stones one by one, every inch photographed, every fragment cataloged, and then they hit something that stopped the entire operation. The entrance wasn't just buried, it was sealed. A thick black substance had been poured into the passage and hardened into something stronger than modern concrete. Dr. Elif Badoman, a materials chemist from Ankara University, ran the analysis 3 times because she didn't believe the results. Her hands were shaking when she showed the team the molecular breakdown. This compound is bitumen mixed with ash and organic binding agents, she said. Basically ancient superglue, airtight, waterproof, designed to last millennia. She paused. This level of chemical engineering shouldn't exist for another 4,000 years. And get this, the seal wasn't just at the entrance. It filled the entire corridor. Hundreds of pounds of this tar mixture poured deep into the passage. Whoever closed this place didn't just want it shut. They wanted it sealed forever. So here's the thing that kept the team up at night. You don't engineer a seal like this unless you're protecting something or keeping something in. The local villagers have avoided this side of the hill for generations. No specific reason. They just stay away. When the team asked the elders why, one said, something that made Dr. Gürsan's blood run cold. Some doors are closed for a reason. They opened it anyway, descending into the dark. When the team broke through, cold air rushed out. It smelled ancient, like stone untouched by the outside world for 120 centuries. The corridor sloped downward at a sharp angle. So narrow, researchers entered one at a time, turning sideways to fit. But here's the deal. The walls weren't rough cave surfaces. They'd been smoothed by hand. Tool marks showed where workers deliberately widened some sections and narrowed others. Every inch engineered. No soot on the ceiling, no trash on the floor, no animal bones. Most caves where humans lived are messy. This place was immaculate, sterile, like walking through it was either sacred or forbidden. The passage continued through level after level, 13 distinct floors carved into bedrock. The team also discovered over 15,000 small shafts cut into the stone, ventilation channels bringing fresh air to the deepest levels. Dr. Özdoğan stopped counting after the 8th floor. "This isn't a home," he said quietly. "This isn't a cellar. This is something we've never seen before." What they found on the 4th level made them question everything about the Stone Age. The staircase to nowhere. The passage opened into a larger chamber, a perfect square, geometrically precise in a way that shouldn't be possible with primitive tools. But what caught everyone's attention was the staircase. Dr. Nilüfer Salem, an architectural historian from the German Archaeological Institute, measured each step 3 times. Her face went pale. "These aren't rough steps hacked into rock," she said. "They're mathematically identical, each one exactly the same height. This precision doesn't appear in the archaeological record for another 5,000 years." The stairs descended further into darkness. The team followed. Then they hit a wall, not a collapsed passage, not rubble, a flat, solid wall of bedrock. No door, no handle, no seam. Here's the catch. The steps were worn down in the middle. Limestone only wears like that after thousands of footsteps over generations. People walked down these stairs for centuries. They were going somewhere. Then someone walled it off permanently. Why build a perfect staircase that leads into solid rock? If you want to see what they found behind that wall, make sure you're subscribed, because this is where it gets truly disturbing. What was behind the wall? The team brought radar to the bottom of the staircase. The screen showed a small circular chamber on the other side. Something was in there. After days of debate, they cut through. Small saws, careful incisions. When the first stone came out, they inserted a fiber optic camera. The feed was black. Then the light clicked on. The camera showed the floor first, smooth, undisturbed for 12,000 years. Then the walls, curved, a perfect circle. Then it panned to the center. Dr. Ayşe Gürsen, lead excavation director, since 2008, inhaled sharply. Nobody spoke. On the monitor, arranged in a perfect ring with faces pointing inward, were several objects. Bone-white, spherical, skulls, no bodies, no other bones. Just skulls placed with deliberate ritualistic precision. Dr. Gürsen stepped back from the monitor. A junior researcher left the tent. The senior team exchanged looks that said more than words could, because those skulls did not look human. Not human. Basically, I need to be clear about what not human means. These weren't alien remains, but they had been modified so dramatically they no longer resembled ordinary people. The skulls were elongated, stretched with, backward to nearly double normal length. This is cranial binding, wrapping infants' heads tightly cloth or boards while the skull is soft. And get this, cranial binding exists in other ancient cultures, but never this early, never this extreme. At 12,000 years old, these are the oldest examples of deliberate skull modification ever discovered. The people of Göbeklitepe perfected this technique to a degree that wouldn't be seen again for millennia. Dr. Kerem Aksoy, a physical anthropologist from Hacettepe University, examined the remains for 3 days. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "I've studied human remains my entire career. These aren't just modified, they're transformed. Whoever these people were, their own community didn't consider them human anymore. The team stopped using human in documentation. They adopted the classification not human. It's not that simple though. These skulls weren't displayed with honor, weren't placed in a family tomb. They were hidden 13 stories underground, behind a staircase leading to a wall, in a chamber sealed with ancient tar. This wasn't respect, this was containment. These beings, whatever they represented, were being kept away from the living, permanently. A civilization built on fear. So here's the thing, most people aren't ready to hear. This discovery doesn't add a footnote to history. It demolishes the story we've told ourselves about human origins. For decades, Göbeklitepe represented hope, early humans cooperating, building something beautiful. The 13-story chamber tells a different story. These people didn't build a temple, they built a prison. They spent generations of labor, thousands of workers, and chemical engineering that shouldn't have existed. all to make sure whatever was inside never got out. Consider the effort. 13 levels into solid bedrock, over 15,000 ventilation shafts, mathematically precise staircases, a seal designed to last eternity, all for a handful of skulls. One theory is already circulating privately among geneticists. Dr. Fatma Yilmaz, a geneticist consulting on the project, made a comment off-record that's been repeated in archaeological circles since. The DNA results, she said, don't match anything on the current human family tree. She refused to elaborate. What this means is almost too terrifying to say out loud. If true, 12,000 years ago, a different kind of intelligent being shared this planet with our ancestors. A being eventually defeated, transformed through head binding, and buried so deep we were never supposed to find them. The famous T-shaped pillars on the surface, the animal carvings, that was the facade. While the community lived in sunlight, something was being managed in darkness below, something requiring a 13-story prison to contain. The question no one wants to answer. Cranial binding is always done to mimic something. You don't deform your child's skull randomly. You do it to resemble a higher power, something you've seen. If Göbeklitepe's people were binding heads to look like something, who were they copying? The elongated skull shape appears across ancient cultures worldwide. Egyptian pharaohs, Paracas skulls of Peru, strange figures in Sumerian carvings. Some researchers note the resemblance to watchers described in texts, like the Book of Enoch, beings said to have walked among early humans before being cast out. Whether you believe those connections or not, the facts remain. The first organized civilization built a 13-story underground prison for modified skulls, sealed it with technology they shouldn't have possessed, buried it so deep it took 12,000 years and ground-penetrating radar to find. The evidence is there, sitting in silence, in the dark. 13 stories down, the seal has been broken. Now we have to ask, if these ancient people went to such lengths to keep these skulls hidden, should we have opened that door? Maybe some secrets were buried for a reason. If you think the world deserves to know what's really buried beneath Göbeklitepe, smash that like button and subscribe. We're not done digging. Drop your theory in the comments, because I want to know if you see what I see.